Hey, what's going on, everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer deck tech. And today we're going to be talking about $20 Mono Black Devotion. I'm very excited to bring this ultra budget list to you. As always, let me know at the end of the video, what do you think about the list? Is there a card that I should have included that I didn't? Also, if there's any great upgrades for this deck that I did not include at the end of the video, just let me know in the comment section below. I know there's quite a few excellent black cards that we could have included, but we really didn't have room just because obviously it's a $20 budget deck. So just let me know in the comment section below. So all right, Mono Black Devotion, $20. I don't remember how many $20 decks we've done on the channel thus far. I know we've done a decent amount, but I really haven't featured a black deck yet. So I figured, I went to the laboratory, tried to brew up something spicy, and then this is what we ended up coming up with. And I think it's pretty fun, and it's a pretty solid deck overall. So let's go and hop into it here. So these are our one drops that we're playing. We're playing 4 Warlock class, 4 Foulmire Knight, and 4 Blood Chief's Thirst. Warlock class is just really good for the Devotion decks, just because obviously it's a permanent, and it has some relevancy too. If a creature died this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. Gradually, when we have all of our Death Touchers in removal, we can kind of get some incremental life gain, or sorry, we just drain them, or not a drain, they just lose 1, which is pretty good. And then we get it to level 2, we can kind of draw some cards, look at the top 3 cards, put 1 of them in your hand, the rest in your graveyard, which is pretty sweet. So it's not too bad. It's kind of like a bigger sleight of hand for the most part. And then, not that we're going to be activating level 3 a lot on this card, but at the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn. So again, not that we're going to be doing that very often, but it is possible that we could do something like that. But overall, it's just when we have extra mana, we just dump it into Warlock class. Definitely a big fan of the card overall. Foulmire Knight is just great too. It's a draw spell on the adventure side, and then the other side, it's just a 1/1 Death Toucher, which is pretty sweet. Trades with pretty much anything. It's really annoying for our opponent, especially if they have just really good creatures that don't have trample or anything like that, or first strike. It's really hard for them to send their Adelines into it when it has Death Touch, that kind of thing. So definitely a big fan of Foulmire Knight. Blood Chief's Thirst is just a fantastic removal spell. Fatal Push is a little bit out of our budget, so that's why we were playing Blood Chief's Thirst. But obviously, if you're not, trying to hit the $20 budget, you can definitely play 4 Fatal Push. You do not have to play Blood Chief's Thirst. Just figured I would mention that. So, next slide here, our 2 drops. We're playing 2 Power Word Kill. The thing is with Power Word Kill is this is the removal spell that I chose to play for this deck, at least for 2 mana. But realistically, you can play whatever one you like. If you want to play Bitter Triumph, you can go ahead and play that one. If you want to play Go for the Throat, that's perfectly fine too. I would just change this one based on your local metagame. Like Go for the Throat, for instance, the main downside is it doesn't hit like Sky Sovereign or Asika's Chariot. So it really just comes down to, what's your metagame look like? Oh, there's not a lot of this? Okay, then play this specific one. That kind of thing. So just figured I would mention that, but I think Power Word Kill is overall the most flexible one. We're also playing 4 Gifted Aetherborn and 4 Yarok's Fenlurker. Gifted Aetherborn is just a really, really good card against aggro, Death Touch, and Lifelink, 2/3 for 2. It's really hard to punch through for the most part. If they use a removal spell on it, it's kind of okay. It's just one of our 2 drops, but the card is really, really good. Definitely a big fan of Gifted Aetherborn. Yarok's Fenlurker is extremely annoying for our opponent. When it enters, they exile the card from their hand, and we can pump it if we need to. I must say, playing this deck, I very rarely ever do pump this card, but it is relevant. There's sometimes where you just got some extra mana, you're able to trade up with some of our opponent's creatures, that kind of thing. So definitely a very, very good card for sure. Definitely very underrated, as it's basically like a burglar rat kind of thing, but it's very important because it's 2 black pips for a card that's very important, which I think pretty much everybody knows what card that is. Next slide here, we have some of our great 3 drops. We're playing 3 Ayara First of Locthwain. I definitely really like this card. 2/3 for black, black, black. Whenever it or another black creature enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it just drains our opponent whenever we play more creatures. And then we get tap and sacrifice another black creature, draw a card, which is good for multiple reasons. Obviously, if our opponent goes to use a removal spell on something that's not Ayara, we can just sacrifice and draw a card, which is a pretty good rate. If our creatures don't trade up with our opponents, we can just chump block them, and then before damage we can sacrifice them to draw a card just to get a little bit more value. So definitely a big fan of Ayara, but the main reason we're playing it is the 3 black pips. We're also playing 4 Murderous Rider. I really, really love Murderous Rider. This is one of my favorite cards, black cards in Pioneer. Obviously, we got the Swift End part, destroy a creature planeswalker you lose to, which typically is not a big deal. We have a lot of life gain, so it's really not an issue for us. And then the other side, 2/3 of lifelink. When it dies, put it on the bottom of its owner's library. Murderous Rider, just a really, really good card. Kill a creature, we can go to our next turn, we can just play a 2/3 lifelinker. It's just a solid card overall. Then we're also playing 4 Underworld Dreams, black, black, black enchantment. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. Again, it's really good because it has 3 black pips, but if our opponent's drawing a ton of extra cards, like if they're playing, is it Phoenix, for instance, and just drawing all those cards, or, you know, if they're playing cards like, I don't even know, like Tireless Tracker, really just opt, consider, anything where they're drawing extra cards, Smuggler's Copter, they're going to take more damage. So Underworld Dreams is just very, very good in the deck, really. Can't say too much about it. Also a sweet reprint. A lot of people didn't realize that this card is like a very old card. Underworld Dreams being printed in Theros Beyond Death was actually what made it in Pioneer, so definitely very, very cool. So all right, next slide here, and pretty much our last slide we have to talk about. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, the best card in the deck. 2/4 for 3 black, black. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. This card is incredible. It was really, really good when it was in standard. Both times it was in standard, actually. So, obviously, that's why we're playing all the cards with, you know, 1 black pip, 2 black pips, 3 black pips. I think the only card pretty much that we're playing in the deck that doesn't have all black pips for its mana cost besides Grey Merchant of Asphodel is the Murderous Rider. But, you know, we're playing all those cards. So, in a perfect world, we go like 1 drop into 2 drop into 3 drop, and we just like curve incredibly well. And then we just go Grey Merchant and we drain them for like 6, 7, 8. But realistically, you know, against especially a lot of aggro decks, if we go Gary, or that's the nickname for it, if we just play Gary and we drain him for like 5, 6, and then the next turn we just play another one, most of the time the game is just kind of over. Obviously the life gain is super good too, because it could, you know, it pads our life total, makes it harder for them to kill us, that kind of thing. So definitely a big fan of Grey Merchant of Asphodel. It's one of my favorite black cards, again, once again, in Pioneer. Definitely a big fan of the card. So that's our entire main board, except for our lands, and the lands are really, really simple. We're on a $20 budget. We're playing 4 Ifnir Deadlands and 19 Swamps. Ifnir Deadlands, definitely one of the more not commonly played deserts, but, you know, it has some relevancy. 2 black, black, tap it, sacrifice the desert, put 2 -1/-1 counters on target creature. So it's just, it's a little bit of removal, you know, when we need it in a niche spot for the most part. You know, I like Ifnir Deadlands. It's solid. The main thing is we don't want to be playing a lot of lands that don't tap for black mana, just because obviously with all of our creatures that are black, 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 and, you know, that kind of thing, we want to make sure that we have black mana. You know, if we put a bunch of colorless lands in here, half the time they won't even be able to do anything. They won't even be able to make any mana for us. So it's why it's very, very important that all of our lands make black mana. And then as our spicy basic land of the day, we're playing a ton of Theros cards. I had to include the Theros Beyond Death Swamp. I think the Swamp is probably my favorite of the bunch, just because, you know, you got like that purple and the blue a little bit in there. It just looks really, really cool. I'm definitely a big fan of the Theros Beyond Death basics. So, all right, that's our entire main board, but don't go anywhere. We still have to talk about our sideboard as well as some upgrade options. So sideboarding is really, really simple for our $20 deck. We're going to want some Graveyard Hate. Cards like Tormod's Crypt, Soul Guide Lantern, and Cling to Dust are fantastic graveyard options. We're going to want some extra removal. Cards like Ray of Revelation is personally what I would recommend. You could also play some, I quote, Doomblade effects. You know, if you want more power kills, go for the throats. Those are great. As well as cards like Languish. It's one of the best black board wipes in the entire format. And guess what? It's also really, really cheap. So that's what I would recommend. We're also going to want some hand attack. Cards like Duress and I always forget the Dreams of Sinew and Steel. Or Dreams of Steel. Yeah, Dreams of Sinew and Steel. Pretty sure that's the name of it, or Dreams of Steel and Oil, that's what it is. Cards like that are fantastic, especially against like other control and mid-range decks. Overall, that's what I would personally recommend. And our upgrade options, not our budget options, I would personally start with upgrading some of the utility lands, especially cards like Nykthos, for instance. Again, Nykthos is not 100% necessary for the deck, but I would definitely play Nykthos if you're thinking about playing a specific version of Mono Black, which I'll explain that in a second. If you didn't notice, I'm not playing any 4-drops. That's because I didn't think any of our budget option 4-drops were really that good for the most part. I would personally get cards like Shieldred or Phyrexian Obliterator, and I forgot to include it on here, but also the Bloodletter of Alcatraz or whatever it is from Lost Caverns. It's the guy that says whenever an opponent loses life on your turn, they lose double. So if we curve that into Gary, it's pretty much game over for the most part. So I would personally recommend getting those. Shieldred's definitely very expensive, so I would probably recommend getting Phyrexian Obliterator first, especially since the card I think goes for around like $7-8, which is pretty sweet, and the card is awesome. So that's personally what I would recommend. I kind of got off topic with the upgrade utility lands though. Nykthos is great. I would definitely play some Takanumas if you have those. If you have Urborgs, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, that's personally what I would recommend. And then the last one being combo or mid-range. So what's really sweet about Mono Black Devotion in Pioneer is you can kind of play whatever version you want. So the combo version looks to use Underworld Dreams and Shieldred, and then you activate your Nykthos, and then you play Peer into the Abyss, which says target player loses half their life and draws half the cards in their library. So what you do is you make them, okay, I'm going to make you draw half your library. Oh, you drew 23 cards, and then Shieldred trigger or Underworld Dreams trigger. That's kind of the idea for the most part. But you could also play the mid-range version, which is kind of just what we're doing today. You know, we're just playing like hand attack and graveyard, you know, not graveyard, but just really good removal, hand attack, death touch creatures, that kind of thing. So personally, I like the mid-range version better, but if you're a combo player, I would definitely consider playing the combo version, which I don't want to say is the most consistent deck, and it kind of is, but the deck's really, really good. You just try to combo out your opponent by playing a bunch of, you know, black permanents, or you also just Gary them to death, and it's pretty sweet. So overall, the deck is pretty sweet. So, all right. Well, we reached the end of the video. I'd like to thank everybody for watching this video. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the list? Let me know if you do end up building this for your FNM, and also let me know in the comment section below if there's any card that I definitely should have included in the deck that I did not. So, all right, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.